we want to help agencies 10x their revenue without having to 10x their headcount. We really want it to be that all-in-one solution so that they use OneFort and they don't have to use all that many other tools to win an account. So because you've raised funding doesn't always mean that you're delivering for your clients. So we want to make sure that's front and center for us. Is obviously we've raised the funding, we're able to accelerate our product developments, hire the right team. But what's most important for us is that we're able to actually build the right tools for our clients. These smaller guys aren't backed by billions of dollars in private equity, right? They don't have all the resources in the world. So they're really trying to figure out how they can use technology like AI to level the playing field a little bit. They're able to use AI to get more results than they could have ever imagined without having to hire a ton of people or really invest in their headcount. So
with the solution that you have, if you could have the accurate data in the AMS and you could push that information both ways, that you're going to automatically get distribution for your product based on those AMS systems that you're able to integrate with, and you're going to have stickiness for that actual AMS.
Average account manager at an insurance agency is spending about 9 hours a week on these manual, repetitive, time-consuming tasks. And our goal is to bring all of that down to zero. We do want to work with folks that are ready to use technology. I know there's some that are, not 100% sure if they want to use technology, or maybe they want to, hire a team, maybe an offshore team instead of using OneFort.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. And one way we do that is enabling you to be able to quote, bind, and issue policies faster. And I'm not talking about finger exercises so that you can type better. I'm talking about leveraging technology to work on things that are not revenue bearing so you can focus on closing more deals. To that end today, our guest is Toby Hung from OneFort, and we're going to dive into their tech, what it's doing to disrupt the industry and how it can help you. Toby, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, man? Happy Friday.
Thank you. I already told you you're number 4 out of 4, so I'm on the glide path right now. Take it easy on me, William.
All right, will do, man. Hopefully you have some good plans for Friday coming up ahead of you, because I know it's been a long day. So appreciate you making the time and excited to dive in. I know you gave a great introduction that really summarized what exactly we're trying to do here at OneFort. So yeah, let's get rocking and rolling.
Absolutely. And you get me solo. Kyle was on the last 3, but he had to go pick up his kids. So we're going to excuse him for this one, and you and I can talk by ourselves.
Yeah.
So why don't you give everybody kind of an overview of like what your background is, who you are, where you came from, and all of that, and then we'll start gripping and ripping.
Yeah, let's do it. So really nice to meet everyone here, especially for all the fresh faces that I hadn't met before. I'm Toby. I'm one of the co-founders, and I'm the chief operating officer of OneFort. And as David, you alluded to earlier, we are an all-in-one AI solution for commercial insurance agencies. And our mission is pretty simple. We want to help agencies 10x their revenue without having to 10x their headcount. So in other words, like you mentioned earlier, we want to help you automate all of those manual, repetitive, time-consuming tasks and just help you close more deals in less time and with less work. So that's really the goal of OneFort. We'll dig a lot deeper into what exactly that means and how we do it. But a bit about myself. So my background's actually a bit of a mix between insurance and technology. So I started my career working on the carrier side, working for this large personal lines, life insurance carrier based out of Asia. They're called AIA. And for any insurance history nerds out there, obviously we're all familiar with AIG, and AIG is actually the offshoots back in the early 20th century of AIA that's based in Asia. So there's that connection there. But that's where I started my career, working on the carrier side, and had a lot of exposure working with agents back then that were interested in using technology to do their jobs better, but they weren't able to find the right tools. And but whenever they had tools that they wanted to try, they just weren't user friendly, and a lot of them didn't really work all that well. So that's where I really got a good sense of the opportunity for technology to really transform the industry, help folks do their jobs better, faster, more accurately. And after a stint in insurance, I actually spent a bit of time working in tech as well. So I worked for a big tech company out of California, worked across a couple of different teams. And while I was there, I actually ended up working with a few insurance clients of theirs. So kind of saw the flip side of that, what it was like for a tech company to partner with insurance companies. And a big realization that I had was, there was just this big gap, this big miscommunication between insurance and technology, right? Insurance people and technology people just don't speak the same language, right? They're not coming from the same backgrounds. And that's a really big reason why my co-founder and I decided to start OneFort was to bridge that gap between technology and insurance and really make technologies like AI accessible to insurance agencies. So that's a bit about my background. We started OneFort about 4 years ago, went through, a couple pivots here and there to really arrive at the solution that we offer now. And obviously with AI taking off in the last couple of years, we wanted to make sure this was something we could make available to agencies everywhere. So yeah, that's a bit about myself and how we came up with OneFort.
So as you're going through this process, have you had the benefit of being in any of sort of the support structure that the industry started to build for InsurTech clients? There's BrokerTech Ventures, um, the one that they have in North Carolina. It's slipping my mind right now that Aubie Knight and them put together um, out of the Big Eye of North Carolina. It'll come to me in a second.
101 Weston Labs, was
Yeah,
that?
West 101 Weston. That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Any of that part, the stuff that you've been part of?
Yeah. So we actually participated in BrokerTech Ventures a couple of years back. I think we were the 2023 cohort. So, we were a member of that. So we're actually going to their upcoming conference. I think it's their first time doing a conference outside of the Startup Accelerator. That's coming up in 2 or 3 weeks in Chicago. So we're pretty excited for that. But yeah, we've been a part of BTV. They've been a great support system. We've also worked with, a lot of other folks that are just, yourself included. There's so many folks in the insurtech or insurance ecosystem that are so supportive to startups, providing feedback and advice, to us founders. So super grateful for that. But yeah, we took an investment from BTV. We worked with a lot of other um, VCs as well that have invested in insurtech specifically. So we actually closed around earlier this year, a $7.5 million seed round to help us accelerate our growth, and managed to fit in a couple insurtech folks on the cap table as well. So yeah, I mean, it's been a great journey so far being a part of the ecosystem.
How how's that make you feel to know that you had $7.5 million invested in your idea?
It feels great. I mean, there's no better validation. I think it's, and one thing that I also call out is, we're cautious of not leading with that when we're making our introductions because, funding is a milestone. I think it's great for myself and my co-founder and all of our previous investors, but, just because you've raised funding doesn't always mean that, you're delivering for your clients. So we want to make sure, that's front and center for us is, obviously we've raised the funding, we're able to accelerate our product developments, hire the right team. But what's most important for us is that we're able to actually build the right tools for our clients. But obviously, funding's a nice point of validation that we're on the right path. So definitely feels good to get the news there.
So maybe walk through kind of how OneFort is set up to operate in order to help that smaller agency that might be fighting the diminishing labor pool and needs a lifeline, honestly, in many cases, just to be able to keep up, let alone get ahead in the game. And also, if you're an agency that's already strong, it's going to make them stronger. But, you're solving a problem that I think a lot of people have tried to solve. And I'm interested to see, where we are 5 years from now, right? Because from my perspective, especially with AI, my goodness, I mean, I'm scared to death because I feel like if I were to invent something today, 5 years from now, it's going to be completely obsolete or different just based on how rapidly that technology is changing. So I'm interested, number one, in how are you setting yourself up to help agencies now, but then how can you give them confidence that this is a good idea, based on where your roadmap is to be 5 years from now? And I understand you can't predict the future, man, but I think that part of the issue that the insurance industry has is number one, there's a lot of money in the insurance industry. It doesn't matter what segment of the industry you're in, there's usually money there. And so my concern always is, then the other problem is, I'll finish that thought pattern first. You have a lot of agents that are always looking for that silver bullet. They're always looking for, I don't want to say the easy way out, but that's really what it is. How can I get something to do more work for me so I don't have to do as much? And they throw money at a lot of things and then they never use it, or they don't use it the right way. And then all of a sudden it's the software's fault or the training program's fault or whatever. And so that's to me, that's always when I talk to somebody who's in InsurTech, I tell them your biggest uphill battle is gaining the trust of the independent agent community specifically, because they've in their mind tried to use so many things when the reality is they never implemented it the way that it should have been implemented. And as a result, they end up just saying, you know what, screw technology. I'm just going to do it the old way. And that's a death spiral that we've been in for a long time.
You're 100% right, David. I think it's really one of the greatest travesties, honestly, to see that there's a lot of great tech out there in insurance, right? There's a lot of folks, and we're not the only ones. There's a lot of other, very talented founders building great companies and great tools. But just imagine you're an agency owner, and like you mentioned, you're trying to find the best solutions for your team, right? For your agency, and you might come across a few different tools. You try them out, you pay for a couple of different subscriptions, and the fact of the matter is that you're probably sinking in, depending on the type of solution, thousands of dollars. If you're a larger agency, maybe even tens or hundreds, thousands of dollars. And you're expecting that return on investment, or expecting that the tool is going to help your team save time, save money. But exactly as you mentioned, it actually ends up taking more of your team's time to learn how to use the thing, right? And especially if you're getting multiple different tools, you're getting, a point solution to help them with generating proposals, maybe a different solution to help them with quoting, and another one that's helping them with answering questions, kind of this chat GPT type solution. Yeah, the problem with that approach is that you end up buying all these different tools that are so segmented, and we also know people's attention spans, and it's limited, right? You don't have all the time in the world to learn five different tools, just to get five different things done. And I think for a lot of these agency owners, I think we've talked to them time and time again where they end up just being disappointed with having to buy so many different tools. And instead of saving money and saving costs, or saving time for their team, they actually end up losing money and losing time, and kind of has a counterintuitive effects than what they originally wanted. So I'm with you on that. We've talked to a lot of agency owners and agency leadership that have gone through that process. And that's really a big part of why we decided to make OneFort all in one, right? We didn't want our agencies and our partners to have to use us and also 5, 10 different other tools just to get, and just to place an account or get a deal done. We really want it to be that all-in-one solution so that they use OneFort and they don't have to use all that many other tools to win an account. So that's really a big idea behind OneFort, is that we're this all-in-one solution. We're integrated into their existing workflows. So one thing that I'll touch on here real quick is that because of our AI and because of a lot of technology that we've built out, we don't need someone to really go through a robust onboarding process to start using OneFort. We've built in a lot of integrations into their existing workflows and existing tools so that day one of using OneFort, even first hour of using OneFort, they connect their tools to us, and we're automatically able to pull in all of their existing client information, generate comparisons across all of their quotes. We're able to create submissions for them that will then help them submit automatically across all their carrier portals. So, we're really integrated into their existing workflows and their existing data structure so that, it doesn't really take them that much time to set up OneFort. And it's not like it's going to take a whole lot of time for their team to start using us. We're really integrated into their workflows. So that's really front and center of what we're doing here at OneFort. Is we don't want to just be one tool out of 10 other ones that you're going to have to train your agency on. We want to be that operating system that connects to everything, and we're that single source of truth that enables your agency to work better, faster, more accurately.
And who doesn't want that?
Hey man, I know, I've talked to a lot of agents that are like, hey, like how can they say no to this, right? Like what's the catch? What's the downside, right? But yeah, I mean, I think there's just so many folks that are spurns by a lot of shiny tools out there. I think just in the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of solutions that have overpromised but not necessarily delivered on what
Well, I
they've.
think we find a lot of people that create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist, right? They're creating the problem after the solution.
Yeah, I mean, and I say this with a lot of love coming from a technology background myself, but I think a lot of technologists will often think about products and features first as opposed to the actual pain point that they're solving for. And yeah, I don't think that's the right approach. I think the big reason why we actually went through a couple pivots for OneFort to get to where we are now is that we actually built our current solution with a lot of agencies as our design partners. So we spent, gosh, probably hundreds of hours working with insurance agencies, understanding their current processes, understanding what the headaches they were experiencing were, where they were spending the most time. And that's how we ended up with our solution. Obviously it wasn't perfect at first, but we really relied on these design partners of ours to get to where we are now. So, I mean, it's really, working with agencies is front and center. It's core to how we're building our products, and we're not just throwing solutions at them and seeing what sticks. We're really building with the agents in mind.
So who's the ideal candidate for you?
That's a good question. We've thought about this a lot. We thought obviously a lot of insurtechs, a lot of agency productivity tools will go after the top 100 insurance agencies out there. And we had that phase as well. We were kind of looking at them and saying, hey, those guys have so much premium. They're working with so many clients. We'd love to tap into that market. And we do have quite some of them that work with OneFort, and we enjoy those partnerships. But as
Well,
of
the
late,
problem is there's only 100 of them.
that too. That too, man. I mean, there's only 100 of them, and they're all getting bought up by the top 10, right? So it's yeah, it's a dangerous game to just play in that field. But we've actually been seeing a lot of success with smaller and mid-sized agencies recently, where and those are the guys that, and I'm sure you work with a lot of them with your different initiatives, but we're actually seeing that smaller agencies, even in that kind of $5 to $10 million gross written premium range, those folks are actually the most excited about using technology, and they're the most hungry in terms of innovating and up leveling their tech stack so that they can compete with all those other larger agencies, right? Because they realize these smaller guys aren't backed by billions of dollars in private equity, right? They don't have all the resources in the world, so they're really trying to figure out how they can use technology like AI to level the playing field a little bit. They're able to use AI to get more results than they could have ever imagined without having to hire a ton of people or really invest in their headcount. So yeah, I would say a lot of the agencies that have seen a lot of success with OneFort have been some of the smaller ones recently. A lot of the mid-sized ones as well that I think are hitting that plateau where they've grown a lot in the last couple of years, but they're not able to scale as quickly as they used to. They're also seeing a lot of benefit from OneFort. So yeah, I think right now we're doubling down on the small to mid-sized segments of insurance agencies.
So you've said a couple of times all in one. What does that actually mean? So for somebody, I've had the benefit of seeing your platform. Now I have to take that experience and try and paint word pictures for people who are listening to this as opposed to watching. When you say all in one, what do you mean? Because I have a feeling that could very easily be misinterpreted depending on who the person is that's receiving that message.
Yeah, that's a great point. And obviously, not to plug it too much, but we do recommend, if there is interest, obviously coming to our website, and on a demo call, I'll actually be able to show you some visuals and walk you through all of that. But to recap all of it to people that are listening, the all-in-one solution of OneFort focuses on a couple different use cases, but I'll focus on the one that's the most pressing and the most time-consuming for smaller agencies, and that's around submissions, right? I think that's where a lot of agents are coming to us. I've talked to three already today that came to us and said they're spending way too much time on, especially on some of these smaller accounts where there's just not a lot of revenue on the table, and you just don't want to be spending so many hours manually plugging in information across different carrier portals and wait for quotes to come back. And when they do come back, having to compare and contrast them, generate those coverage comparisons, the side-by-side analyses, and make those proposals, right? It's just on average, we're seeing that the average account manager at an insurance agency is spending about 9 hours a week on these manual, repetitive, time-consuming tasks. And our goal is to bring all of that down to zero, right? So that's really where the all-in-one comes in. So I'll give you a tangible example of how someone can come into OneFort and really get this use case done. So we're integrated into a lot of your existing agency workflows. So you don't have to necessarily come into a portal and use this like a rater where, with a traditional comparative rater, you still got to go in there, you got to plug in all these different responses, just to get the information in there and wait for a quote to come back. We're a little bit different because we're integrated using AI with your existing data structures. So we're able to extract a lot of important information around your insureds, like their completed applications, maybe it's last year's policy, loss runs, whatever it might be that we need to actually start the quoting process. We extract all of that automatically. And from there, we work with the agents during the onboarding process to figure out what markets they want to quote with. So we're able to help them plug in their direct markets. We're able to help them quotes with their directly appointed markets, but we also do provide some market access. So we're not, we don't position ourselves as a wholesaler or anything like that, but we do provide market access for a lot of the specialty lines, if there's interest there, and we do offer very high, industry leading commissions for that use case as well. But once we get all the submission information and you tell us which markets you typically want to quote with, we have an AI agent that goes into those carrier portals and does the data entry on your behalf. So you're no longer having to go to these different portals, plug in the information over and over again. Our AI agent does that on your behalf. We get the submission in, we get the quotes back for you. And one thing that I do want to call out here too is that a lot of the time with traditional comparative raters, once you get the information in there, once you submit the application, it ends up getting stuck in what we call referral purgatory, right? Where it gets sent to referral, it ends up on some underwriter's desk, and they might have questions for you to, before they want to release a quote. But for a lot of traditional comparative raters, those questions don't really end up back to the agency. And maybe sometimes they do, but things get lost in translation. And, once something gets submitted, it doesn't end up coming back to you as a quote. So we've built out a lot of AI to help with triaging those underwriting questions. We help you triage all of them, package them in one go. We can even help you automatically trigger an email to the insured to ask those follow-up questions. So we've got a lot of automated workflows to help you. The goal is to get you as many quotes back as possible. So we've built out a workflow for that. And once the quotes do come back via OneFort, whether it's through your direct markets or through our market access, we automatically generate a coverage comparison. So you can see all the quotes side by side, what are the different premiums across carriers ABC, what are the different limits, retentions, AM best ratings, all the information that you want to present. We also include an actual coverage breakdown of what's included, what's excluded, highlights, pros and cons of each option so that you can readily share that with the insured. And you can even download a custom proposal that's white labeled. It has your agency's logo on there. You can download it, send it off to your insured, present them with a marketing summary as well that we automatically generate. So we really help you take it to the finish line. We're not just there to help you get quotes. We're also there to create these high quality proposals so that you can send it to your insured, get that bind order in there. And from there, we'll take it to the finish line. We'll really, get the deal done for you, get that bind order in for you on those carrier portals and get you those binders and policies back. So that's really what I mean by all in one. I know I went through that whole process there, tried to sum it in, break it down into just a couple minutes, but really it's that entire submission process, submission quoting, policy generation. We include all of that within the OneFort experience for brokers.
Couldn't have said it better myself, man. Probably couldn't have said it myself, to be honest with you. So good summary. I appreciate that. So I asked you who your ideal candidate or prospect is. I'm going to ask you the opposite of that. Who isn't a good prospect for you?
That is a really good question, man. Let me think about it. So I would say, obviously, we want to work with as many agents as possible. I'm sure we're not the first to say that, but we do want to work with folks that are ready to use technology. I know there's some that are, not 100% sure if they want to use technology, or maybe they want to, hire a team, maybe an offshore team instead of using OneFort. Obviously, for those agencies, we do recommend trying us out. And our onboarding process is so simple that, we don't have any barriers to entry. It's free for you to start using OneFort. So we always recommend for folks just to test this out. If it's not the right solution, then, there's no harm, no foul, but we do recommend that, folks try us out before entertaining different options. But I will say, obviously, if you're interested in using technology, that's a good fit. If you're more comfortable with, hiring a team that's going to take care of these manual processes for you. I know some folks are, just looking to invest in more headcounts, might not necessarily be the best fit for OneFort, because our mission is to help you do more with less, right? So if you're trying to, just hire more and build up that workforce, then, it might not be 100% the best fit. I'll also say right now we're focused on commercial lines. So if, I know there's a lot of folks out there that are just doing personal, we are going to be building on that in our roadmap. So that's a big part of the fundraise. Our recent fundraise is for us to be able to expand into personal lines as well. But for the time being, we're pretty focused on commercials. So I would say if you're only doing personal, then It's maybe a not now. We'd love to talk to you maybe a couple months out, 6 months down the line, but for the time being, we're pretty focused on commercial. So yeah, I would say those are probably the two caveats. But other than that, man, we work with agencies all across the country, across different industry focuses. So there hasn't really been a whole lot of agencies that have reached out to us that we've had to turn down. But yeah, I would say if there's interest, reach out to us. I'll definitely make sure we see if there's a good fit before we take things to the next level.
So let me ask you this, because I understand the whole piece with regard to, beginning to end, but I mean, I just want to clarify, you're not trying to operate as an agency management system as well, or are you?
That's another really good question. So we're not really trying to build or call ourselves the next AMS or anything like that. There are so many out there, and especially a lot of the bigger players, right? They have a good hold on the market. So we're not really trying to address the problem from that angle. But that being said, I think a big problem with AMSs today is that they're not really synced up to existing workflows and existing data structures and tools that brokers are using. So there's not a whole lot of information on AMSs that are actually actionable. So I'll just, yeah, as a quick aside, I'll mention that a lot of brokers have actually, wanted us to integrate into their AMSs, and obviously that's something that we prioritize pretty heavily. But whenever we've done something like that, we realize that man, there's just not a whole lot of data on the AMS that is actually useful for us to quote, right?
Or if you do have data, it's bad, or
Yeah,
not clean.
it's not
You know,
clean, it's outdated. So yeah, I mean that was a big problem that we realized with existing AMSs. And I mean, you talk to so many insurance agents and CSR, and that's the last thing that they want to do was go back into their AMS and plug in, update all the information line item by line item. It's just such a big headache for these guys, right? So
so here would be my question. If you have the ability to go out and get good data that you feel is better than what's in the AMS, what's preventing you from having a two-way integration to take your data that's cleaner, push it in, and actually update the record in a way that now it's synced up?
David, I'd love to have you talk to our engineers, man. I mean, it's something that we're thinking a lot about. Obviously there's just so much time, and we're working on so many different features that are enabling brokers through that, submission, quoting process, and also helping them upsell and cross-sell lines of coverage. There's a lot of great stuff that we're releasing there. So, it's a good point. I think we're not
Here's
right now.
why I asked the question, okay? The reason why I asked the question is because I feel like with the solution that you have, if you could have the accurate data in the AMS and you could push that information both ways, that you're going to automatically get distribution for your product based on those AMS systems that you're able to integrate with, and you're going to have stickiness for that actual AMS. Now, I'm going to be clear. I've built a couple of mobile apps in my day, but I have never gone and built an AMS from scratch, and I have absolutely no desire to do that. But my understanding, and from my I shouldn't say my understanding, my perception of most AMSs is it's a bear, man. It's like really, really tough because you're constantly just continually bolting more and more things on, and it doesn't. In my opinion, probably almost impossible to have the most efficient version of an operating platform when it's just here's what we started with and we've added all this stuff on. But you also can't feasibly go back, start over from scratch, rebuild it from the ground up every time you want to add anything. So I think there's a point in I was an investor originally, very early on in Better Agency before they were acquired by Glovebox. And I watched this whole thing happen with them, right? And I always felt like when they pivoted to try and be the AMS, that was a big problem. But when they were able to integrate with the AMS and have their CRM and go to CRM solution, and in your case, even pushing it out, getting quotes, getting proposals and coverage comparisons done, why wouldn't I just be okay with being there, right? And I think one of the things that I see is an issue across all entrepreneurs, myself included, is at some point ego can get in the way if you allow that to happen. And so instead of wanting to be the best tool for the overall insurance industry and everything that somebody could get into, why not just be the very best at that one thing that you do and then have that integrate with the legacy systems to the point where more people are going to adopt your product because it goes in seamlessly with them. And quite honestly, if I were an investor in OneFort, I would love that angle because I feel like at some point, one of them's going to gobble you up on your exit, and then you're going to end up having a built-in exit strategy if you do that.
I mean, it's a lot of good points there. I think there's, yeah, I mean, a lot of the things are things that my co-founder and I talk about quite often. I will say, yeah, I mean, we're really focused on a very specific set of features that are delivering value to our current agency partners and the ones that we've been talking to. So 100% agreed on your point of not wanting to, just build too much too quickly, right? We don't want to just blanket the market and try to build all these tools if none of them actually work all that well. We were really focused on actually building something that works. And, then that's where the all-in-one comes in, right? Is, we want to build a very good operating system across the use cases that we're focused on, but we don't want to go out there and just build, we're not going to randomly start building, I don't know, we're not going to become an MGA overnight or anything like that. We're in the business of really just helping agents work better, faster, more accurately. That's what we're focused on for now. But no, you brought up a lot of good points, man. I mean, we'd love to have you as a part of our next brainstorming session. I'm sure like we have a lot that
I
we'll
might
agree
scare you, man. Come in
with.
disguised as an insurance agent.
I love it, man. I can picture you, with a fake mustache. I don't know, like some classes just coming in here
Yeah,
doing.
the Groucho Marx thing with the big nose and the mustache and the glasses built in.
I
That's
love
my
it.
disguise.
I love it.
Funny. So we've been going for, almost 40 minutes. What have we missed?
So I think there's really a couple big takeaways that I want some of the folks here listening to get out of this. And I know we've been really focused on the desk level, right? What we can do for the account executive, what we can do for CSRs that are really the ones suffering from this manual work. But I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the agency owner, right? From an agency leader's point of view, what they're losing because of all this manual work that's going into these processes and what they can stand to gain with automation. So I'll touch on two quick pain points, and I think these are things that you've actually talked about in previous conversations as well. But number one is there's a big problem around turnover in the industry, right? We're seeing that there's so many agency partners of ours where they're just losing staff left and right. People are moving around to different firms or not. And I think especially with this generation, they're not trying to stick with the same employer for their entire careers, right? They're trying to move around or being a bit more flexible there. So the way that we've been thinking about it is the way that you really solve for this turnover problem at your agency is by empowering your staff to do more meaningful work, right? So what that means is instead of having them spend time on administrative, manual, time-consuming tasks, give them back more time so that they can actually add more meaningful value to the company, right? They can actually get more time back instead of being overworked. I talked to an agent earlier today who unfortunately said he spent 80 hours working this week already, and I just wish that, and he's gonna start using OneFort next week, so that's gonna save him some time. But we want to make sure everyone's not feeling burnt out. We want to make sure they're feeling comfortable with their work. So that's a big part of why we've built out OneFort, is to reduce that burnouts a lot of agents are facing. And on that note, we also want to make sure newer generations that are entering the workforce and insurance agencies, Gen Z, millennials, they're all using AI in their personal lives, right? They're all using ChatGPT to come up with recipes, right? They're using it to plan their vacations. So they're also expecting to use some kind of technology at work. So, if you're not empowering your agents, if you're not empowering your staff to use the latest and greatest technology when they're in the office, it's not exactly going to give them the best experience. And I think that's also a big reason why turnover, especially with that younger generation, is such a big problem within agencies. So that's a big thing that we've been talking to agency owners about, is how do we use technology to help you retain the best staff that you have? And the second thing that I'll call out, which I hinted at a bit earlier, is that we really see AI as the great equalizer. We see it as a tool for you to level the playing field. We see it as a way for smaller agencies to catch up to those 100-pound gorillas out there that have so many resources and so much in funding. We've seen so many agents that have only recently started, but they started using OneFort, they started using technology and AI, and they've been able to catch up to some of those bigger players because they might not necessarily have the same budget or the same resources as an Aon or a Marsh. But with AI, they're actually able to produce pretty much the same level of output, right? They're able to produce high quality proposals. They're able to get to their clients sooner and reduce those turnaround times and really deliver results for their clients. So, if anything, there's no better time for folks to, especially smaller agencies, to think about scaling up, think about using technology to build up their operations, because we really see this as almost a once in a generation opportunity to leverage AI and leverage technology to take things to the next level, especially for those smaller agencies. So if you're one of those guys and you're interested in exploring AI use cases for your agency, would love to have a conversation. I think I know you usually include our website or link
Yeah,
in.
this is it, man. We're closing it down with a shameless plug, so lay it on thick.
So that's it, man. Would love to have a conversation, and I'll also call out, especially for smaller agencies. There's no cost to using OneFort from the get-go, so you can start using the platform. There's no we don't want to build up any barriers to entry for you. We're not trying to build this couple $100 per month subscription for you to get locked into. So we just want to make it easy for folks to start using AI, get the benefits of it, and really start winning more. So that's what OneFort is all about. And David, really enjoyed our conversation today and excited for many more to come.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time to join me on a Friday afternoon.
My
If you don't
pleasure.
have anything else, let's call it a wrap, and we'll look forward to following your progress and how you continue to build this thing out moving into the future.
I appreciate it. And now I just wanted to thank you for all the great content you've been putting out for insurance agencies out there. And I
Oh,
know there's
thanks, man.
events that are coming up and would love to be a part of it. I know I'm seeing some of those signing day announcements
Yeah,
coming up.
so
And
it's hilarious, man, because this thing continues to morph. Like I had that idea like maybe Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon. And that's one of the nice parts about having an in-house graphics design team. I can just say, hey, here's what my vision is. Go do it, And they have. So now I'm having fun with it because I'm kind of, if you like, I posted across all my networks for obvious reasons. If they're sponsoring, I want to give them brand awareness. But now I'm having fun with it because I'm putting walkout music behind it, unlike Instagram and TikTok and my Facebook stories. So everybody's getting their own customized walkout music behind their graphic that I'm putting up now.
I love it, man. Well, we'd love to be a part of the community and just keep tabs on each other. And yeah, I mean, I know
Sure.
there's the event next year, so any opportunities to be a part of it, we'd love to obviously dive into that community because we really love what you've built out and would love to keep being a part of it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I will send you information on that when we get off of here.
Yeah, sounds like a plan, man. Well, hopefully you enjoy the rest of your Friday. I know this is the last one, so yeah, man. Hopefully you got a good happy hour coming up after this.
Now it's time to do insurance work.
Um,
All
well, hey, if
right, brother.
you were using something like AI, that'd probably shave it down to just a couple minutes. So
Yeah, I can't read my email and get it into my head though. That's my biggest problem.
we're working on it, man. We'll add it to the roadmap.
I've been saying for years we don't have like a USB stick that you can just stick in your ear hole and download everything you need to know, but we're probably not as far from it as what I think.
Hey, it's coming, man. It's coming, brother. All right. Well, you
All
enjoy
right,
the
man.
rest of your Friday. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. Take care. Bye.